Hi, and welcome to Accelebration with our special guest, Brett Bevell. Today's theme is Reiki healing. I'd like to introduce Brett to you now. As a gifted Reiki master, Brett Bevell is the author of several books, including Psychic Reiki, The Wizard's Guide to Energy Healing, The Reiki Magic Guide to Self-Attunement, and Reiki for Spiritual Healing. Brett is also a pioneer in the field of healing apps, first exploring this concept in 2013 through his book, New Reiki Software for Divine Living, and now offering his energy healing work through the Solana app by Mind Valley. Brett's clients include a number of Hollywood stars, screenwriters, and his publicly endorsed by Carrie Ann Inaba from ABC's Dancing with the Stars. Welcome, Brett.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dee.
It's a pleasure. Pleasure to have you with us. I enjoyed some of your healing work this morning. On our Humanities Stream app. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and share that now.
Sure.
Let's see. So we can talk a little bit about your program and how it works on Humanities Stream. So this is Humanities Stream, where you can start a free 7-day trial and explore all of these courses, master classes, and you can watch it on Roku TV, Apple TV, Fire TV, Google Play, Android TV. So we have a large masterclass section and additional transformational education. And this morning I was watching Magical Awakening. And let's see if we can get to it. You can see just an assortment of wonderful materials. So one of the things that I would like to invite Jim to come in and share how easy it is to download the Roku app. And so you can watch it from your TV in your living room, in your bedroom, wherever. So you can download and watch comfortably from any room in your house. So Jim, are you able to do that now? Programming. So there we go. Thank you, Jim, for sharing. And I would like to go ahead and dive into some questions.
Sure.
All right. So let's see. I'd like to hear a little bit about your book, Healing Racism Within: A Lightworker's Guide.
Sure. Yeah. So that's going to be released in the middle of October this year. It's a book that is very, very close to home for me because I'm quite revealing in the book that I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and there was a lot of racial conditioning that I was born with. You know, my parents were well, I'll just quit. I'll quit. I'll just be as vulnerable as I can. When I was a toddler, I witnessed a race-based murder, and I was literally born into a family of murderers and pedophiles. So that's where I grew up. And my path as an energy healer has been about cleaning up that psychic cosmic mess that I was born into within myself. And as I've used those tools to clean up issues around sexual abuse and shame and all those very personal issues, I've also felt and become aware of that same capacity to also help change my own conditioning, to change that racial bias that I was born with, to change those kinds of um, filters through which I was seeing the world because of the way I was raised. And so it's a very powerful book that takes people through different exercises so that they can really go inward and help clear ancestral trauma, even clear the ancestral lines of things that may be passed down to us from our grandparents or great grandparents in terms of different biases or pain or trauma. So it's something that I'm really excited about. And again, it's probably of all the books I've written, it's probably the most vulnerable one in terms of me going into my own personal story.
Wow, that's exciting. And I think that, so many people my age that grew up in the 60s, there was so much racism. It was absolutely a part of life.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot to undo. And I'm excited. I'm excited about your new book.
Thank you. Yeah,
Um,
me too.
yeah. So let's see. Do you want to tell me about pioneering Reiki software?
Yeah, so in my book, New Reiki Software for Divine Living, in one of the chapters, I talked about the ability to send Reiki through electronics and through apps. And so in that book, I think I predicted what what has now become pretty commonplace. And then eventually, I was contacted. I think it was in 2016 or 2017 by Mind Valley about their Solvana app, and so I'm now faculty on that app in terms of being able to send energy healing through time and space through pre-recorded healings. And an interesting thing about that is a couple of years ago I was actually in a car accident and I had a concussion, and I found for me the most helpful tool that I had for working on myself was actually that app. Sometimes I would listen to myself doing healing, sometimes I would listen to other healers doing healings, but just having that ability just literally through my iPhone to receive healing that I needed, but that I was not in a place to give myself because of my own injury, I found it very powerful. And I feel that there's so much territory there that's still not even fully tapped. My goal is one day to, and I think actually Humanity's team is kind of doing this. My goal is one day is to see something that would be like a library of ancient Alexandria, but in the form of an app in terms of all the energetic possibilities of what one could tap into to bring healing to themselves, to society, and to the world at large.
Yeah. So I was let's see, I think I did Magical Awakening Day 1 this
Mhm.
morning, the
Mhm.
energy healing empowerment, which was amazing. So I am just like, I came in absolutely charged and
Yeah.
energetically feeling like I'm very expanded. So I would love to invite you to lead us in an experience,
A
an
healing. Okay.
energy healing experience.
Great. I would love to do that. So I'm just going to invite everybody who's on this call. Just make sure that you're not driving or doing anything where where you need your full attention. So because this can put you in an altered state. So just either be seated or lying down. And I'm going to begin by just sending some energies out to everybody to help work on what I call the bones of the soul, kind of the architecture of your soul. And you may hear some tapping and blowing as I'm working with these energies. And then putting everybody into these three energetic pools. And these are higher level tools that are beyond the level 1 training, but just want to give you the best healing possible in the time that we have together. And now I'm inviting a tool called Merlin's Book of Magic to create a pyramid of blue fire around everybody in this healing, surrounded by a sphere of Excalibur, surrounded by a cube of gemstone of Excalibur, and surrounded by a decahedron of divine light of the Grail. and inviting Merlin's Book of Magic as well to manifest cords of gemstone of Excalibur between each and everybody's bone and each of their bodies, between each and every other bone within their own body, to create a beautiful web of divine light inside of everybody as they're receiving this healing. And inviting Merlin's Book of Magic now to also run those same energy cords through each organ and organ system through time, from the moment of each person's birth on this call up to the present moment, to clear the timelines of each of those organs and organ systems now. And I'm also going to just very quickly bring everybody into this place I call the lake. So the lake is not so much a body of water with fish in it. In this system, it's more thought of as a place of where our consciousness is kind of more fluid, more primordial before it crystallizes into this world of form. And while you're in the lake, I'm going to call in Lady of the Lake, who's one of the guides of the system, to just come in and do a quick healing on each person on the call. And she's a multidimensional being. So when she comes in, she can work with each individual at their own level and bring each of you whatever it is that you specifically need in this moment. And I feel her presence coming through. Beautiful. Thank you, Lady of the Lake. She works very, very quickly, very, very fast. And I'm just going to bring through some elemental energies now here, just bring through the element of air just to help bring everybody into a place of stillness and inner peace. And bringing through the element of water to help everybody come into a place of serenity on the emotional body. And bringing through the element of earth for just some quick grounding, and intending that the element of earth also form as whatever crystals or gemstones would be most appropriate for you in this moment, for each individual in this moment. And also bringing through some energy I call Mists of Avalon, which has one purpose, which is to help connect each of us to that sense of divine mystery, that eternal divine presence. And then I'm going to put everybody into the Grail Cup now for grounding. So again, you may see some hand motions and some blowing. It's just the techniques I use. So, and as everyone's in the Grail Cup, just going to bring through some more element of water as a beautiful waterfall coming down from above, flowing down through each person's crown chakra, down through all of their chakras, washing away any last energetic debris that's ready to be released from this short little sample healing, just to make sure that everything's clean and clear as the healing comes to an end. And again, just reinforcing some element of earth as a beautiful grounding cord running from each person's tailbone all the way down to the center of the earth, just so that everyone's nice and grounded here at the end of the session. And so that's, again, that's just a very quick energetic taste of magical awakening. I did use some higher level tools in the course that's available here on Humanities Stream. It takes you through the first level where each person is empowered to what I call the three cauldrons, or three primary energy centers. One that flows out of the navel that I call dragon fire, which has a hot, fiery energy that is really good for burning out negative energy in your field. I've also found it very effective on physical issues to burn things out as well. You also learn how to bring through an energy I call the Grail that comes from the heart center. It is a very deeply nurturing, restorative healing quality to it. And then you also can bring through an energy from the top of the head that I call Arthur's Crown that brings through an energy of wisdom and awakening. So in the level 1 course, which is a 28-day course with little doses of content each day, you get the empowerment on the first day, and then you're taught how to weave these 3 different energetic possibilities together to do healings on yourself, to also send healings to other individuals. So the beautiful thing is at level 1, with this level, you can send healing distantly, and also how to even send group healings and how to work with the land, clearing the land. So it's a wonderful introduction to this system, and I'm so happy that it's now available here on Humanities Stream.
Well, thank you. That was just an energetic spa day here for us at Humanities Team. I know everyone felt that. That was just absolutely incredible. So, Man, that was nice. I am like, I feel the top of my head tingling. My feet are
Uh-huh.
tingling. so, so thank you. I studied at the Caritas Center here in Boulder, energetic healing, and it is pretty amazing. And that everyone has access to this through Humanity's Stream is really incredible. I can't wait to dive in. I'm going to be starting through your first course over the weekend, and I'll continue through the month. But man, thank you. That was really incredible. So what kind of differences are there in the Reiki training?
Yeah, so again, there's two different trainings that are available of my work through Humanities Stream, and there's the Magical Awakening level 1, which I just spoke about, which goes for 28 days. There's also a course that I offer that is a different energy that I call Psychic Reiki. Now, Psychic Reiki is the vibration of Reiki, which is a little bit different than the vibration of Magical Awakening. But Psychic Reiki is also just a very beautiful and very easily accessible tool. It actually came to me in 2007 while I was traveling in Laos. I was alone. I was actually finishing the first edits on my first book, The Reiki Magic Guide to Self-Attunement. And I got very ill. Bear with me on this story. It's just an interesting story, I find. I got very ill at one point. My spleen was swollen about the size of a small grapefruit. I had a fever. All the guidebooks that I looked at said, if you can avoid going to a Laotian hospital, it's probably in your best interest because it's more likely you will leave the hospital with something worse than what you came in with. So I didn't seek going to a hospital. I just simply locked myself in my room for several days and did energy healing nonstop. At a certain point, I heard a voice in my head say, "Would you like a new spleen?" And I said yes. Now I don't think that physically a new spleen appeared for me, but literally instantly I felt better. Instantly I felt as though I was fine. The fever suddenly was gone. The swelling went away. I was very hungry from having been hiding up in my room for several days. And I went to have a meal and actually I remember very specifically, I had aloo gobi at this lovely little kind of outdoor Indian food restaurant. They had these little plastic chairs outside. And I was sitting in my chair and I noticed this amazing presence just suddenly appeared in the chair next to me. And I had this knowing that that presence was the spirit of Mikao Usui, who's the founder of Reiki, who has passed away, almost 100 years ago. But I knew that that was the energy of his spirit. And I felt from him this ball of white light go into the area of my heart chakra. And initially when that happened, I had no idea what that really meant, other than that it was an interesting experience. For the weeks after that, I kept falling in and out of this very amazing mystical place of consciousness where I would see these very complex mathematical equations in my mind that made no sense to me. But when I would see them, I would just have this awareness of that eternal presence that exists in all things, even in a spoon or in a glass of water or a chair. And what I began to notice over time, again, literally after a period of weeks, was that that ball of white light was just more than a ball of white light, that it was actually an energetic crystal, what I call the Reiki crystal. It was a crystal, if you could imagine, not a physical crystal, but an energetic crystal made out of the light of Reiki that had been put into the area of my heart chakra. And what I came to realize was that if I simply talked to that crystal, either with my voice or just with the power of my mind, that crystal would then send Reiki to whatever I asked it to send. So Psychic Reiki is basically still using the energy of Reiki, which is a very popular form of energy healing, but it's using it in this different way that I was shown through this experience that I had in 2007 in Laos, where in the 14-day program, one is empowered to their own Reiki crystal. So they have it sitting in front of their heart chakra. And then I guide you through how to use that to send healings to yourself, how to send healings to others, also how to, again, do advanced techniques with it. There's a one section where we start to integrate the working with it with also different Taoist healing symbols. And it's a very beautiful, beautiful training, a bit different than the Magical Awakening, but still in its own right, a very powerful, powerful system.
Wonderful. Can you tell me about the difference between hands-on and psychic healing?
Sure. I mean, so hands-on healing, I mean, I still love traditional Reiki. I still actually teach traditional Reiki, where the practitioner would usually be in the same room with the person and laying their hands on another person. Within Reiki, though, there is also, even built in traditional Reiki at the second level, there is the ability to send Reiki distantly through time and space. So in traditional Reiki, one would use sacred symbols for that process and invoke those symbols to kind of bridge time and space to send the healing to a person on another spot in the planet, or even to send healing backwards or forwards in time. And so with psychic Reiki, what I'm really meaning is just, it's the same energy as traditional Reiki. It's just that the practitioner is literally just accessing it by having a psychic conversation with that Reiki crystal that's in front of their heart chakra. And they can either have the conversation psychically, or some people literally talk out loud to their Reiki crystal, but it's really that simple and that easy. And so that's why I use the term psychic Reiki when describing those techniques.
So we have loads of questions coming in, and
Sure.
I'm going to start bringing them in. Anna
Okay.
said, I love that experience. Does your program deal with these kinds of processes?
My program definitely gives an introduction to that. So again, in the Magical Awakening program, you're empowered to 3 primary energy centers. In the healing that I just offered, since I'm the founder and teacher of this system, there are 9 levels that I teach the public. So I was using every tool that I had. But even at the first level, you get an amazing bag of tools. So again, if I compare it to Reiki, in first degree Reiki, you learn hand positions to do healing on yourself, and that's really all you get. I mean, you get that and you get some history about the precepts and stuff. But in the Magical Awakening training, you're getting 3 primary energy centers that you can access. You're also taught how to send that energy distantly at level 1, how to send group healings, how to also weave those energies together for really powerful experiences. Also how to connect and commune with those spiritual guides that oversee the system, who are Merlin and Lady the Lake, and how to build a deeper relationship with them as your spirit guides. So again, is everything in there that I shared with you during the healing experience today? No, but it's still a very, very powerful experience, and I highly encourage you to try it. If you're a member of Humanity's Dream already, then you have access to it anyway. So I would say just join and learn from it, because it's a very powerful system, and I've had so many compliments about this work since I first started sharing it back in 2007, 2008.
So we have a thank you from Orsi. She's just like saying thank you. Christina says, thank you for the healing, Brett. I felt really powerful as usual. Yvette says, such gratitude to be here. Jerry says, Brett, how can one most beneficially speak with someone who has experienced such extreme abuse?
Can you read that question again? I heard part of it and the Zoom cut out.
How can one most beneficially speak with someone who has experienced such extreme abuse?
So, I mean, I'm not quite sure of the focus of that question. I'll go where I think it's going. So I'll just say, from my own experience, I certainly suffered extreme abuse. And for me, I really feel like that motto, the truth will set you free. So being as honest as you can with somebody, if you know somebody who's in that place, and to being able to hold space for somebody who's in that place, or if you yourself are in that place, just being as open and as honest as you can in places that feel comfortable, not wanting to put yourself in a situation that feels unsafe. Safety is certainly important. But even though I had a pretty challenged childhood, at the same time, I also feel a sense of I don't want to say gratitude, because that's not the right word, but a sense of, if I hadn't had that difficult childhood, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I also really love who I am today, and I love the life that I have. I love the energy healing techniques that I experienced and that I've developed. I love my beautiful wife and son. So I have an amazing, amazing life. And so I don't feel sorry for myself about my childhood. I feel like it was a painful experience, and I've worked through it, and I've gained many gifts through it. I really think, it's kind of like a perfect example of the wounded healer, in the sense that, you know, we, through trying to heal our own wounds, we then discover gifts that we can then bring out into the world. So I think that's where your question was intended to go. If I'm mistaken, feel free to rephrase it and put it back in the chat.
All right, thank you. So Katrina asks, if it's not too uncomfortable, can you speak a little more about the racism when growing up? Oh, Jerry says yes, thank you too, by the way.
Sure. Yeah. So again, you know, like I said, growing up, I witnessed a race-based murder when I was a toddler. My father was very, very right wing. He used to talk about wanting to put a statue of Adolf Hitler in front of his business. He never did, thank God. One of his friends was somebody who often bragged about murdering a black boy many years before, and my father would send me on fishing trips with this guy. I mean, so it was really, really a very difficult and challenging environment. And it wasn't until I actually graduated college that finally the light bulb went on in my head, like, I need to get away from this situation. I got deeply into therapy, started, doing my own inner work, 12-step work, shamanic work, everything I could get my hands on to bring healing to myself. And all of those things I honor as systems that helped bring me a little closer and a little bit deeper into the light. But for me personally, the thing that radically transformed my life, I found, was energy healing. It was really when I got into Reiki and then also explored other forms of energy healing that I noticed an exponential increase in my happiness, an increase in my ability to receive joy, and to be, again, at Omega Institute where I work, I'm known for having this very boisterous laugh around campus. And so for me, I really credit Reiki and the other forms of energy healing that I've worked with over the years for being the light that has helped clean that up in my system. So the interesting thing about these energy healing systems is that it's not just an intellectual process. You can literally clear those energy cords between you and somebody who's been abusive. So what I do in Reiki in Healing Racism Within is I talk about those practices where you can start to use that to clear your own ancestral lineage. It's not that you're sending Reiki to your ancestors, but you can clear those energetic lines between you and maybe your grandparents or great-grandparents. And even if they were very good people, they may have held certain biases or certain beliefs that they're not necessarily in alignment with the highest light. So you can help clear that out. You can also, even, I was speaking about the Reiki crystal. You can even use the Reiki crystal to bring yourself into certain meditative states of awareness, to then ask it to show you where in your own consciousness are you still holding on to some of those biases or maybe traumas, depending on if you're a white person or a person of color. So you can really use these tools then to go deeper and deeper into clearing out whatever's being held in the cells of your own body, which, depending on your own experience, might be that of somebody who's received, on the receiving end of trauma, of abuse, or somebody who's been carrying and maybe unconsciously, promoting that trauma unconsciously. So this gives you a toolkit then to begin to work on that stuff. And again, I started with very simple exercises, even beginning with what I call simple art therapy, like different doodles and drawings with, how do I see myself? How did I hear things? How am I going to draw my ears and mouth? But then going deeper and deeper into different energy healing techniques in the book.
Wonderful, thank you. So Joni said, you're awesome, Brett. So things are coming in fast and furious. I'm trying to keep up.
Sure.
It takes a lot to speak of these things. You are blessed despite your past. So that was anonymous, and I so agree with that. Let's see, Greg says, how did this racial experience shape your vision of the world?
Well, I mean, it was interesting because even growing up, it was a very strange thing. So my father was very right-wing. My parents were divorced since I was 5. My mother on the outside seemed very, very liberal on the outside. And yet internally, there were statements she would make, things that I realized, what you're projecting on the outside isn't what's really going on the inside. And so what I realized, again, I didn't really start to fully realize this until I started doing my inner work, therapy and other things after college, is I started to realize that even though I always thought of myself as being somebody who was very progressive and trying to do the right thing, I realized that I was still carrying inside of me all these these energetic imprints, all these subconscious imprints of what I had been taught, what I had learned from my father and also from my mother, and that I needed to clean up that mess energetically. And I think I talk about this in the book too. There was a period of my life where I was living in Oakland, and I was working at a place called Quickway, which was mostly, the other employees were Black there, and it served mostly a Black clientele. And that was sort of my first real introduction to being in a culture that was different than what I had grown up in. And so during that time, even just using certain meditations to become aware of my own inner judgments and how I could change those and shift those. And so again, the book explores that awareness of my own path as well.
Wonderful. Can you share the name of the book again and let us know where we can buy it?
Yeah, so it's called Healing Racism Within, a Lightworker's Guide. It's available for pre-order now. You could get it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, or you could ask your local bookstore to order it for you if you'd like. It's actually going to be released in mid-October, but it's certainly available for pre-order right now. And again, it's got some beautiful endorsements from people like Donna Eden and Mike Dooley and Jan Van Zandt and many others who you will see on places like Humanities Stream and Omega Institute and those places.
Wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about your work at Omega?
Sure. So at Omega, I have two dual jobs. One is a job that I've had for many years, where I have been running the program for staff at Omega. Workshop. I love bringing together what I call the Wisdom of Reiki conference at Omega, which is happening this year. Putting together conferences and different is in those programs past 2 decades is create something I call the Peace Program, which actually feels very in alignment with what Humanities Team is doing. And it was a program that was about training students up through master level. So it was a 4-month-long program, training them up through master level in Reiki, also teaching them some magical awakening tools and some other energy healing tools. But as part of that process, we were also always sending light out into the world, sending healing towards bringing world peace, sending healing towards parts of the planet that were in distress. So it felt very in alignment with the kinds of things that I've seen in partnering with Humanities Team. So it's been a beautiful program and generated a number of wonderful healers coming out of that program the last 20 years.
That's amazing. So people can learn more about Omega. Just Google it. It's an amazing opportunity there too. So Marian writes in, as a wounded healer myself, a UC Reiki master teacher, recently I had a brain injury or brain surgery and cancer treatment. I've not yet taught others Reiki yet. I do healing sessions. What advice may you give for me to be confident to serve as a paid teacher? My memory isn't great, so causes doubt.
Sure. Yeah. And I really empathize with you because, like I said, a few years ago, I had a car accident, not the same experience that you've had, but there was some brain trauma involved in that car accident where I had memory loss and kind of certain lack of confidence. So I can certainly sympathize with where you're coming from. And I would say my advice, again, if you're part of the Humanities Stream, then take advantage. I would recommend for you the psychic Reiki training round. And in there, one of the things that I explore is something I call a Reiki hologram, which is like, if you can imagine an organ, one of your organs made out of the light of Reiki in a state of perfect health. And so there's a way you could create a Reiki hologram of your brain in a place of perfect health and ask your Reiki crystal to infuse that in your physical brain. And it's not that suddenly, in an instant you're healed of all the trauma that's there, But what it does do is it sets up like a competing energetic signature of perfect health that's coinciding with that energetic signature where there's some distress or some pain. And I found those Reiki holograms to be very effective when people are recovering from any kind of physical trauma. So that's one technique that I would recommend. Again, that's part of the 14-day psychic Reiki training that's available to you through Humanity Stream. And I would also say, just don't push yourself. Certainly have that goal of wanting to teach in public, but if you need to bring some healing for yourself right now, give yourself whatever time and space you need for that. So, and when you feel like you're ready, that your cup is kind of overflowing and you're ready then to share with the world, then certainly take that step forward when it feels right for you. But I wouldn't put any undue pressure on yourself, if you need to give yourself some space right now. And I would also say that in my own journey with Reiki, it took a while between the time I was attuned as a Reiki master, between where I actually felt confident teaching classes. At first, I started with just individuals, one-on-ones, and I made it very low priced because I wanted to, to me, I felt like I was kind of in an internship, if you want to think of it that way. So you could also start that way, where you kind of make it low cost and you let people know, hey, I'm just starting at this. That way it can be more of a learning experience for you. So that's another way you could look at it too. But I keep sensing not to beat yourself up about it. Really give yourself some space to really heal first, and then ease into it when it feels like the time is right.
That is beautiful. So people can have a 7-day free trial. So if we could have the team go ahead and put the link on the Facebook pages and everywhere else, so that they can sign up for a free trial and get to taste the program that I did today. I think you'll really enjoy it. We have another question this one's from Anita. I'm a woman of color, and what you said really got to me, particularly because it is uncommon. I believe for people of color to escape such violent events. How can Reiki tradition help not only people of color, but people of all colors?
Yeah, so that's a beautiful, beautiful question. I'm glad you asked. So even in traditional Reiki, at the second degree, there's a symbol called Seiheki that is really good for releasing mental and emotional trauma. And so even if I was talking about traditional Reiki, and if you explored that, you can use that to help release that. In the book and also in the programs that are offered here, there's ways to even expand that horizon, where you're sending Reiki literally through time, through the ancestral lineage, to release trauma that's held in the ancestral realm, and also to even send Reiki forward into your day, so that it almost becomes like an energetic shield from negative energy that might come at you from people who still haven't woken up to their own stuff, and who are still unfortunately projecting prejudice and racial bias out into the world. So you could even shield yourself energetically with that way, using Reiki. And again, from my point of view, it was more on unwinding that energetic garbage that had been poured into my mind. And I think that as more of us do that, then hopefully we'll hold a more open space for all people in the world, regardless of the color of their skin. But in the meantime, for you as a person of color, I would say, use these tools, whether it's Reiki or magical awakening or whatever tools you have in terms of healing, to do that work. I am aware of a beautiful healer, a woman named Debbie Brown, who's a Reiki master, a woman of color, who does deep work using a technique called Holy Fire Reiki, where she does deep work helping people of color release the trauma that they've experienced on that level too. So again, I have my book and I have my way of approaching this, but there are other healers out there as well who are offering to bring this work out into the world. And so I would say just follow your intuition in terms of where you feel guided to go, and know that I think the time is now for in this country and the world is large, to really start cleaning this mess up. It's been generations and generations, hundreds and hundreds of years. And I think we actually have the tools, we have the energetic tools, and we have the awareness. And now it's time to begin doing that work. So thank you for your question.
That was a great question. Thank you. So I would like to invite any of our Stream Plus members, Humanity Stream Plus members that are here to raise their hand if you want to come on live and ask a question. We'd love to have you do that. I am bringing the written questions in. So if anyone here wants to come on live, Jim, just let us know. And I will continue on with our questions coming in. Let's see. We have so Marion says, wonderful, really appreciate your feedback and it resonates with me. It's lovely that you've made yourself available here and I will be gentle with myself. The psychic course sounds like a good fit. Thank you. Thank you, Marion. And Marion's from Canada. I'm seeing a flag and prayer hands, a butterfly, a heart, and a magical star. So it's fun seeing some of these little symbols coming through. Piper said I had a similar circumstance that you did with your spleen. I had a severe kidney situation and I prayed for the healing that eventually came. Is Reiki a kind of prayer?
Sometimes I see it as, sometimes I compare it to a form of like an energetic prayer. I do believe that it comes from a divine source. So it's kind of in an interesting place. So Reiki is not a religion, but I would say most Reiki practitioners and most Reiki teachers probably would agree with me in saying that it's coming from a divine source. So in that sense, certainly you could think of it as a kind of prayer if you want to. And also, you know, even in the tradition of Reiki, if you really examine the life of Mikao Usui, he was a Buddhist monk. And so there was certainly, you know, a sense of deep spirit and religious connection there with his work. So I think certainly you can see it as a kind of prayer, and that, you know, that certainly fits. Yeah.
Beautiful. John says, how does one get in touch with you for Reiki sessions from you? Can it be done on something like Zoom?
It can be done on Zoom, or it can also just be done, you know, when I do one-on-one healings, I often send them to people at the time just when they're about to go to bed. So being on Zoom is not required. So I mean, there's no Zoom or any electronic devices required for it. Most of my clients I have live in Hollywood. And if somebody wants to do a Zoom session, I certainly am happy to do it on Zoom. But I actually find that the best ideal scenario is to send it when a person is just about to go to bed. The healing takes them into this very deep, deep space, and then they sleep for the next hours, really integrating the healing work. And then I usually follow up with an email about things that I sensed or felt during the healing. So if you want to get in touch with me, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about either Zoom or non-Zoom options. And you could connect with me through my website, brettbevell.com. There's a contact the author button. So you just put a message into there, hit the submit, and it sends me an email. And then I usually try to respond pretty quick to that. You could also send me a Facebook message. I also try to be pretty responsive to that as well.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Casey says, how did you manage to get rid of that unfortunate vision of the racial abuse? I've seen someone die at the hand of a gun. At times it still haunts me.
Again, for me, it's really the energy healing. So it's being able to, I'll digress and go into a little bit of a story here. So there was a training that I did in Santa Fe, New Mexico in 2004, and I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to go to the training, and I actually begged the teacher if she would have the training somewhere else. And the reason was because I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh.
I didn't want to go there because every time I would go to that part of the country, I would get these horrendous migraine headaches, and I just didn't want to go there, even after all the healing work I had done on myself at that point. She's like, no, you should come to the training. So I went and had this amazing experience. It was a 12-day training. And at one point I felt, literally, it felt like almost as though my spine was a smokestack, and there was this puff of almost like yellowish gook that kind of left my system during that training. And I literally had this knowing that at that point that I could go back to the place where I grew up and I was not gonna feel any charge. So literally when that training ended, I asked a friend of mine, because I had just flown in, I asked a friend of mine if she would drive me by the house where I grew up in as a child, and she drove me past there. And I didn't go in because I didn't know who lived there anymore, just some stranger. I didn't want to bother anybody, but I was literally just outside the place where I grew up as a child, where all these horrible things had happened. And it felt to me neutral. It felt like looking at a glass of water. The charge, the pain, the grief, the anger, it was all gone. And I can still remember what happened as a child, but all the emotional, charge of it has been released. And again, primarily through energy healing. So I just want to share that as a window of potential of where people can arrive at if they really dedicate to taking the steps that are prescribed, whether it's in my book, Healing Racism Within, or the courses that are offered here on Humanity Stream, that you can do this work and really clear those energetic imprints that are in the subconscious mind, that are held at the cellular level, that are held at the ancestral level. And you can clear that out. It is possible. It takes a lot of work, but you can do it. And I also feel very fortunate working at Omega Institute, where I'm also exposed to healers from all over the planet. So I feel I've been very blessed in that way. But I've been able to go back to those places and no longer feel that charge. Now, I am not in touch with my family anymore. I've not been in touch with them for many, many years, and I don't have any intention of reconnecting. But I'm still able to go to places where I was the child, and I no longer feel that pain. I no longer feel that level of stuff. And so for me, that's telling me that the energy healing has worked for me to be able to fully release that. And that also includes, working on the karmic body, working on the etheric body, really working on every aspect of my being to release as much as possible. So it can be done. And I would say just keep doing the work. Yeah.
Thank you for that. So, and actually John wrote in, thank you for the information.
Yeah.
So Mike writes, I'm a volunteer with Humanity's team, and I receive their emails about living more consciously. They even talk about conscious living spreading throughout the world within the next 2 decades. What are your thoughts about the accelerated awakening that's happening on the planet, and how do your healing techniques contribute to a more awake experience?
Certainly. So beautiful question. And I feel like it brings up a conversation I had with the shaman Lynn Roberts a couple of years ago, where she kept saying how we're in a time right now where it seems like everything's getting darker and darker. And on one level, that's true. Like the darkness is getting darker, and at the same time, the light is getting brighter. Like both are true. So, my sense, my belief is in that what's called the Maharishi effect, that as a growing number of us become more and more aligned with that light, and also do our own inner work to really purge out whatever we've been holding on to at the ancestral level, the karmic level, the cellular level, the subconscious level, to release that and heal it. And that as our light begins to grow, that when enough people start to vibrate at that level, that it will then eventually cause a quantum shift in humanity, where it just, just kind of then like the 100th monkey, where it just suddenly overtakes what I would call the oversoul of humanity, or the higher self of humanity as a being, where then humanity as itself as a being becomes awake. And in that awakening process, we realize that we are part of an inextricable web of life, that any harm we bring to the planet, or any harm that we bring to a person of another race, is harm that we're really bringing to ourselves. And when we come to that realization, then I think as our numbers grow, that again, I think it will happen exponentially across the planet. So the way these systems work towards that too is Magical Awakening has built into it that energy, again, even at level 1, that energy I called Arthur's Crown, which brings an energy of wisdom and awakening. So even at that first level, there's a way to begin working with that deeper wisdom of awakening. And the psychic Reiki, I believe, does that too in a little bit of a different way, where one can use the Reiki crystal to bring oneself into deep spiritual meditations through the Reiki crystal, to again, to see what you need to work on, to see what needs to be cleared out, and also to bring you into places of deep stillness and peace, bring you into places of oneness, bring you into places of courage, if that's what is needed, bring you into places of grace. So I think, again, the tools have been given to us. It's still up to us to do the work. But I try to be optimistic that even though there's some very dark things happening on the planet right now, there's also a lot of light, and there's a lot of potential, especially if we all kind of step up and step into it and start doing the work that we're capable of.
And one of the things I like to say is the work is fun.
Yeah.
Having experienced your program this morning, I don't look at it as work, it's fun. So we have Amy. Amy is asking a question. Amy, would you like to come on camera and ask Brett your question live? We'd love to bring you in. I can't tell.
Hey, I'm here. I'm feeding the cats, so I have cats meowing around my feet at the moment. So that's why I didn't ask it live. But they're being quiet, so I can really briefly. Actually, Brett, I feel like I met you if you were at, I don't know if you were at Omega several decades ago, but I worked at Omega really briefly for like 3 weeks. And
What year?
gosh, what year? Somewhere around 2000, I think. It was
there.
a long time ago.
You actually look a little familiar, so maybe we have met. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
I remember your name and I do remember your face. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I heard you were from Omega, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So my question is, when I was younger, probably around 2000, actually, I was very, very in touch with the Arthurian legends, and they've always fascinated me. So I wanted to know more about how you received the Merlin healing imagery that you have.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So the Magical Awakening system came to me also in 2007, though it was in the summer of 2007. It was in June. It was literally after a 12-day training on the island of Mallorca in Spain in another system. And literally at the end of that training, within an hour after that, I began having this experience where the best way I can describe it is, if you've ever seen the film The Matrix, where there's the ones and zeros that trickle across the screen as the credits are rolling. It was like that, but it wasn't ones and zeros. It was this trickling white light that I would see on the background of reality, no matter where I was looking. It was just a trickling light that I would see everywhere. And I could feel that this light had a consciousness to it. I could also feel that this light had a connection to Merlin. And I literally just began kind of talking with Merlin and this energy. And I had this sudden awareness that I could empower others to this light. So literally what was in the swimming pool with my then girlfriend, now wife, I empowered her to this energy, asked her to send it back to me, and had a very playful quality to it. And it really evolved over the next, I would say, the next 8 months into this system that I now call Magical Awakening. And the images would just appear to me, like I would begin seeing, the first image that came through was the image of the Grail cup. So at first it was just, that's the only energy that I knew how to flow, was this energy that I call the Grail. And then later I began sensing this other energy at the belly that I call Dragonfire. And then as the system evolved over time, I would see things like a sword. Oh, that's Excalibur. I would see a crown. Oh, that's Arthur's crown. And eventually, at a certain point, Lady of the Lake showed up. So it was really, the system was really teaching me through a direct experience. I'm not somebody who I would claim to be like any kind of, master of Arthurian legends or even that well read. I've read a little bit, but I wouldn't say that I'm somebody has a deep knowledge of Arthurian legend. But really, the energy system itself, I feel, has been teaching me, and that Merlin and Lady of the Lake have been teaching me directly through the system. And so the images have just appeared in the way that they wanted them to. And if anything, I've just more been listening than anything else.
Wow, that's really wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Good to see you again.
It's good to see you again, too.
What a delight. Thank you for joining us, Amy. Does anyone else want to come on live? Oh, I think there's a hand up. Hi, I'm not sure of your name, but let's unmute you. Jim, can you help? Go ahead, say something.
Hi, my name is Teresa. Thank
Hi,
you.
Teresa.
Thanks, Brett. This has been very fascinating. So I hear a lot about your ability to release resistance and move into acceptance, and that's raising conscious awareness in the daytime, which is awesome. Do you have any thoughts about nighttime? What's happening when we sleep, Brett? Like, if you're sending a healing at nighttime or when we are just sleeping, do you have any thoughts of what's going on? I don't know, it's been in my head lately.
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting because we just had a sleep conference at Omega, and one of the facilitators was talking about dreams during that conference, and so my own, and I'm just going off my own intuition, my own sense is that when we're dreaming and that when we're sleeping is that our consciousness is being able to kind of explore. It's being able to kind of go outside of the physical, outside of the body, and literally into the astral, into the dream time, if you want to call it that, and to explore. So it's not that our consciousness is really actually asleep. It's still active. It's still doing things. It's really more our body that goes to sleep, and maybe our conscious mind goes to sleep. But there's a part of us that is still very, very active and engaged in the spirit realm, and still doing work. So I've also, was very blessed in my own healing journey to do this really tremendous dream work with a woman who has since passed on. Her name was Caroline. She was an amazing shaman, and she taught this class called Gathering Power from Your Dreams. And in that class, it was like reenacting dreams almost in the way that happens in Gestalt dream work. But it was also much more mystical in that when we would reenact the dreams, suddenly amazing powers would show up, like angels would come through, ancestors would show up, power animals would come through, and you would feel their presence in the room. And so based on that work that she did, I've always felt like when we're asleep, we're just tapping into that higher level of reality where our ancestors, our angels, our power guides, they're all there with us, and they're teaching us things, they're telling us things. And sometimes we remember that when we wake up, sometimes we don't. Sometimes if we do remember it, we maybe even overanalyze it and try to turn it into something else. But to me, it's a very, very real aspect of living. It's a very, very real place where we're still being active and still doing the work of our soul. So I don't know if that totally answers your question, but
No, it does. And it's kind of, yes, it's confirming sort of what's coming up for me. It's not just a third of our life is wasted. We're laying around restoring the cells of our physical body, but there's just stuff that's been coming up that there's something more. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you're
I am a member, and I am going to sign up and take level 1. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you, Teresa. So good to have you with us. And I know you're going to enjoy the courses of Brett's. They're amazing.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to come in? Let's see if we've got any other hands up. I know I'm not going to get to all of the questions, so let me see. If there's no hands up, I will.
Well, Dee, can I just interject something based on something you said earlier? So you mentioned playfulness, and I really want to reinforce that the magical awakening work in particular is extremely playful. So it actually doesn't feel like you're doing work. It feels like you're just playing. The way I describe it is like you're this child just in an energetic jazz improv with the divine. You're just playing with energy, and as you're playing, innocently and happily, healing occurs. But you're not thinking about trying to fix anything that's broken. You're just playing. And so I'm glad that you tapped into that after even just the first session of that course.
It was amazing. So I've gotten a double dose today, and it has been like a spa day energetically. So thank you. That has been really amazing. So we're coming up to the end. This hour's gone so quickly. Brett, I'd like to invite you to give us your website address and any kind of wrap up that you'd like to do at this point.
Sure. So my website address is my name. So brettbevell.com. And on there you can, if you want to message me, there's a place where you can contact the author. It also has where my live events will be, teaching at Omega Institute for the Reiki conference and elsewhere. And so certainly if you want to send me a message through my website, please do. You can also just find me on Facebook. Again, I have both a personal page and an author page, and I try to be very responsive to messages sent to both of those. So if you have more questions, feel free to let them come my way, and I do my best to try to answer them in a timely manner.
All right, and I apologize that we're not going to get to all of the questions that came in today. Brett, you've been such a delight. Thank you for being our guest. And
Thank you.
yeah, we'll look forward to next Friday's Accelebration. And I really invite everybody here to check out our humanities stream. Have a free test for 7 days. Come in, look at Brett's beautiful programming. And I'd just like to say thank you, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.